To share and be with you, and I'm giving it over to Tina. Tina, also make your please highlight yourself so that we have that, and we're going to go from there. Thank you,
How
everyone.
do I highlight myself, did you say?
Hit the top right hand corner of your box, and you can make yourself pinned. Not pinned, you
Okay, pin
yourself.
myself. And how do
Yeah.
I open the sharing so that my assistant can share a couple of slides? How do I uh host tools for
Can you give
share?
me? You should be able to hit the share button.
Hmm.
And is your assistant Christina?
No, it's Lynn.
Oh, Lynn. Okay. Is she in here right now?
Yes, she's here.
Okay. I don't see her. I was going to say give her co-host, and then
Okay.
that way
Lynn,
go.
can you come on camera real quick so that we can give you the sharing capability?
Okay. So if you go to participants, Tina,
Uh-huh.
click on participants and then see who's there. And then if you put your mouse over the camera, you'll see three dots. And then
Hmm.
one second. That's not the way you're going to do it. You're gonna go ahead, and when you pull up the participants, you're going to, I'm no longer a host, I can't do it. You can make someone a co-host. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I appreciate it. I'm trying to find her real quick. Um, all
I
right.
don't I don't see her in here with her name.
Okay. Well, she may have been using my link. So, okay, there's admit. Let's see. Oh, those are note takers. Okay.
Hi,
Um,
Christina. I am
yep,
here. I
you're
am here
here.
using this. Yeah,
Okay, what is your name on the
It's
Christina.
under Christina. It's under Christina.
Okay, it's under Christina. Okay. So then I just go to Christina and
Make her
make
co-host.
co-host done. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay. And now hit record, Tina.
I think I already did.
Oh, yes, it is recording. Okay, you're good,
Okay.
babe.
Okay, thanks so much. All right. Thank you all. Good to see you. Thanks for taking your time with me today. I know it's incredibly valuable. Um, Lynn, if you want to just go ahead and you can just go ahead and start share. We'll just jump right in here. Um, Let me know as soon as you're ready to go. If you could just do full screen, if you would, to slide one, please. Thank you. Slide one, please. Start at the beginning. Thank you. All righty. Okay, so thanks so much, you guys, for coming today and for showing up. I know your time and attention are really valuable, especially in a group like this. So I really appreciate you being here. And today's all about you and the powerful shifts you're about to make. And that's why this is called Why High Performers Stay Stuck and How to Change It. And I'm genuinely excited to share this with you because what we're talking about today completely transformed my life, my happiness, my business, my relationships, as well as thousands of clients, and ultimately how I experience myself on a daily basis. So many people stay stuck not because they want change, they don't want to change, and not because they're not trying hard enough, but because they don't even know where the real block is coming from, nor how to go about changing it if they do. And that's why today is so important, because we're not just talking about motivation, or we're not just talking, I mean, I'm just making a note here. We're not just talking about motivation or strategies. We're not talking about willpower. We're going underneath all of that right until where the subconscious real transformation begins. And for a group like this, I think that's especially important because many of you have already done more personal development than most people will do it in an entire lifetime. You've gone to the events, you've hired the coaches, you've had the breakthroughs and gained awareness. Yet for many people, certain patterns still persist, like the stress and the anxiety, the overthinking, the procrastination, the self sabotage, confidence issues, money patterns, relationship patterns, the feeling of knowing exactly what you should do and still not consistently doing it. So today we're going to talk about why that happens and, more importantly, what to do about it. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Tina Nomad. I'm a subconscious biohacker and optimizer. And that can go to slide 2, Lynn. I coined the term subconscious biohacking because I truly believe the subconscious mind is the ultimate biohack. And what I do is help people identify, remove, and upgrade the subconscious programming that is limiting their results and preventing them from tapping into their full potential. My mission's simple. I'm here as an amplifier and actualizer of human potential, and here to be part of the human evolution by helping people become more of who they truly are underneath all the conditioning and programming from their past, and connect and identify with themselves and their authentic self, and even at a soul level, which is a game changer. I can tell you that from experience. So over the past 16 years, I've conducted close to 9,000 sessions, and my work combines awareness, perspective shifts, clinical hypnotherapy, NLP, inner mind sourcing, subconscious reprogramming, and human performance principles. And one thing important to know about me is, as I was just talking in the group that I was just in, I am completely 100% results focused. I'm dedicated. I've just dedicated my life to finding what works the best in the shortest amount of time with long lasting results. So if I'm not getting consistently replicable results with most types of people and issues, I'm just simply not doing it. For me, the results are the reason I do a technique or a combination of techniques, not the other way around. So if you ever hear of anyone, this is a challenge, please do. If you ever hear of anyone having more consistently replicable long-term results with just about anyone and everything, then please tell me about it. I'd love to find out how they're able to do it better and faster, because that's what it is for me. So my work currently produces approximately a 96 percentile success rate in resolving targeted issues like fears, phobias, addictions, anxieties, confidence, self-esteem, focus, motivation, drive, all of it. And those results are generally between 1 to 6 sessions for most any type of person. They're the normal quotes range of functioning. And 100% success rate currently, knock on wood, with elite and pro athletes between 1 and 2 sessions. And that's a sweet spot. They're just so aligned already, and it works a lot faster for them. And that's why, but the pro athletes, that's my thing. I used to be an athlete myself, and I'm also currently working with Todd Hartley to be referred to major teams instead of individual pro athletes, because they just tend to keep me as their best kept secret. So now I'm going after the teams, and fingers crossed, getting a referral to several of the major teams here in the near future. So that's exciting. Because with that, then I can really do my love projects of reaching all the people that, don't have the money to pay for, services, the high end stuff. So that's where I really want to be, is helping everybody tap into their full potential. And so the reason I do this work is because after years of studying different modalities, this was the first thing that consistently worked for all types of people: spiritual people, non-spiritual people, pro athletes, entrepreneurs, executives, people with lots of awareness, people with almost no awareness. The common denominator was always the subconscious. Everyone's got one. And as many of you already know, the subconscious is also the gateway to everything else: the body, the higher self, universal intelligence, quantum fields, parallel realities, and much more. So let's talk about why people stay stuck and why negative habits, emotional reactions, self-sabotage, overthinking, anxiety, and recurring patterns just keep happening. And like I said, for most people, it's not lack of desire, and it's not because they lack intelligence or because they aren't trying. It's because the subconscious has already been programmed. And research says that approximately 95% of our daily thoughts, feelings, actions, habits, and responses are subconscious based. So just think about that for a moment. 95%. When most people, what we're talking with right now is the 5%. It's got logic and rationale, but 95% is controlling your everyday life. And that subconscious programming influences how much money you believe you deserve, how confident you feel, how safe success feels, how safe failure or your comfort zone feel, how worthy you feel, how much stress you experience, how you perform under pressure, how you show up in relationships, what opportunities you pursue, what opportunities you avoid, whether you procrastinate or self-sabotage, whether you trust yourself, and whether you fully step into your potential. Because it's impossible to step into your full potential if your underlying programming is in contradiction to that. But for me, most importantly, this determines whether you fully accept, appreciate, and love yourself in every moment of every day, especially the ones where you F it up bad. But most people are trying to change these outcomes without ever changing the programming that's creating them, which is the Band-Aid approach. To change the result, the underlying programming must be changed. Studies show that by the age of 7, much of your subconscious programming is already formed. Basically, between the ages of 0 and 11, we're constantly absorbing information about who we are, what we're capable of, what success and money mean, what love and relationships mean, what's safe or dangerous, what's possible, what's impossible. And because we're children, we don't analyze that information. We interpret it. And that interpretation becomes a belief system that then runs our life. Because most people don't understand that that's what's running their life. That's what they're going to operate on for forevermore. And then later in life, new program can come in by default through significant emotional experiences and particularly traumatic events. That can create additional programming, though rarely is that really positive. So basically, you're being operating right now, for all intents and purposes, most people's thoughts, feelings, actions, and responses are being driven by how they interpreted life between the ages of 0 and 11 and any significant emotional or traumatic experiences after that. I mean, just like think about that for a moment, because most people don't know, so they haven't upgraded it at the subconscious level, or it wasn't done thoroughly enough. And that means that's the programming that they're running on. So, and that's the definition of limiting. It's the equivalent of operating on like DOS 0.2. Like, I don't remember DOS, but apparently it's really old. Um, so just for a moment, I know I'm saying a lot here real quickly, but who's following me? Does this make sense to any of you? Yeah, some of you? Okay, cool. Are any of you realizing, can you relate to this programming from your childhood or trauma that's kind of still running your life? Kind of, kind of. So an easy way to tell that is to take a look at your thought patterns, especially the negative ones, or negative emotional patterns or reactionary points. And how is that showing up in your life? And then you can usually trace that back. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. A lot of people are fascinated, like, why do I have this phobia of flying? I never, like, I don't even remember anything scary happening. Well, I mean, could have been as innocuous as just seeing something on TV at the programming age. And so then the subconscious decided, ooh, flying's dangerous. Done. The programming's written, the computer's programmed, and now that's going to keep running the show. So whatever happens, so I'll keep going, and start to become aware of what we're talking about and how that might relate to you as well. So for all intents and purposes, I kind of describe it like this. Most people are walking around like poorly programmed robots, as they've never had a full upgrade to the computer that runs and dictates 95% of everything that's important about their life. So many of the limitations people experience today are not actually conscious decisions. They're automated responses created by programming that may have been installed decades ago, which means that if the programming remains the same, the pattern usually remains the same or becomes more ingrained and even more noticeable. And that's also why awareness alone most often isn't enough to shift it. And this is one of the biggest confirmations of my Platt journey when I started that first Platt year. And as many of you know, and if you know me, like, you look at Tony's, the basic, what the needs that we're operating on. Well, of course, personal growth is like, well, up there for me, right? It's like far outreaches everything else because I'm here for human potential, right? So it's all about growth. So when I first became a platinum partner, I did every Tony class possible, fully engaged, business classes, finance classes, growth classes, everything I could get my hands on. Of course, the happiness was my favorite, as you all know, at least some of you do. But I already knew something that most people don't realize. Awareness isn't enough. I already knew that coming in. So if awareness alone created lasting change, then everyone who attended personal development events would leave completely transformed and stay that way. But that's not what happens. Awareness tells you what needs to change. Awareness helps you identify the limiting beliefs or patterns and issues. But awareness by itself doesn't necessarily change the programming creating it. So for me, because I knew that already, after every single Tony event that I attended, I took copious notes. Every major insight, every new awareness. I highlighted in different colors every limiting belief and negative pattern that was brought to my awareness that I didn't know before. Because while, yes, I had been steadily working with my subconscious for quite some time, years and years and years by that time, you can only do as much as your current level of awareness is at. So, of course, with Tony, I had lots of new awarenesses. So I highlighted them all. And then after every single event, I got subconscious upgrade sessions for myself done on me by my mentor, the same ones that I do for my clients, to integrate all of the new awarenesses directly into the subconscious and to remove all of those limiting programmings and beliefs that I discovered about myself during the sessions. And sometimes I did multiple sessions around the same issue because I wasn't interested in just becoming aware. I wanted it integrated. I wanted to actually operate from that new level of programming because that's what we're about, right? Tapping into our full potential. So leveling up, leveling up. But I will say doing it that way and doing sessions after every single Tony event was a game changer. Because then I immediately started operating from this new level instead of just being aware of it at the conscious level, like so many people do when taking classes or programs. So combining what I learned from Tony with the subconscious upgrading literally made that first plat year a maximum growth year for me ever. And my mentor, who's known and worked with me since 2010, told me it was the most growth he'd ever seen in me during all those years combined in that year, because Tony's got massive awareness if you really delve in, right? And so that really drove something home for me. Because even with all the great business information and tools that we learn, if that subconscious programming still exists, you'll continue to experience the same patterns of thoughts, emotions, behavior, and results. And what you learn isn't getting fully integrated into the subconscious either. So it remains largely at the surface level, that little 5%, that does not dictate our thoughts, feelings, actions, and responses. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. Not because they haven't learned enough or aren't intelligent enough or committed enough, but because the awareness and subconscious programming are two completely different things. One tells you what to change, and the other determines what you automatically do every day. And if those two aren't aligned, the subconscious wins every single time. And that's why people can know they should change more and still, so I'll say that again. That's why I know that some people should change more, but they also know that they should charge more in business, but they still undercharge. People know that they stop procrastinating. They should stop procrastinating, yet they still procrastinate. They know they're capable, yet they still doubt themselves. People know they're safe, yet they still experience anxiety all the time. They know they deserve success, yet still hold themselves back and self-sabotage. The awareness is there, but the programming is still there too. So the same patterns keep recreating. And that's why this isn't about positive or wishful thinking. It's not even about trying harder. It's about identifying and upgrading the actual programming driving the thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and results in the first place. All right, so we covered a little bit more. How many of you now have more awareness about maybe what you've struggled to make changes with and to make them stick and why that's happening. Yeah. Jenny, it's starting to make sense, or are you still, because you keep doing this. So I'm like, if you're not there, ask a question, because that's what I'm here for. If it's kind of like, oh, I don't really get it, yeah, bring it up for me. Yeah?
I'll keep listening.
Okay. All right. But keep the questions if you've got it, because the awareness is what I'm trying to bring here. I'm not trying. That's my goal here to do, is to bring the awareness. And I will be bringing an experiential process at the end, where I introduce you to the part of you that is directing 95% of your thoughts, feelings, actions, and responses, and actually teach you how to have a relationship with that part of you. So, and it's a really powerful thing. So we'll do that as we get on later. But I will keep going in the meantime. But you guys are starting to get the idea then about why awareness alone still is made it, you still struggle to make the changes that you want. So after seeing the difference that subconscious upgrading made in my own life and in my clients' lives starting back in 2010 when I first went into business with this work, I started to ask these questions. Why do some people get results from subconscious work and others don't? From some types of subconscious work? Because many people have done subconscious work. Many people have done therapy, mindset, or healing work. Many people have done coaching, and yet they still have the issue or the patterns. And after nearly 9,000 sessions, I believe the answer comes down to one thing. Of course, it's the subconscious. If the subconscious isn't updated, then we can't tap into our potential. But there's a lot of methodologies that work with the subconscious, and I've been trained in a lot of them. But if I were doing most of them, I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't have the results that I do. Because it really comes down to one thing, and that's thoroughness. To reprogram the subconscious, and in order to get tangible, replicable results, we have to be extremely thorough. We have to break all of the previous associations, bringing fears, negative emotions, traumas, anything else negative like that back to a neutral state. That's the first part of any session I do. Not in the one we're doing today, but in a normal session. Bring them down to a neutral. And it's easy to tell. We do the first part, break the associations. I can ask someone who has such a severe phobia of something, they can't even talk about it before the session. And now I ask them, oh, like, think about being on that plane. How does it feel now? Like, oh, yeah, that's kind of exciting. And they can say that after like 10 minutes of a session, which is pretty darn cool. So the associations is one part. And then after that's done, you have to start removing the limiting programming and beliefs from every level possible, as well as the associations, every level possible. The conscious, the subconscious, the DNA, the RNA, the cellular memory, the biological programming, the nervous system, neurological levels, genetics, epigenetics, working with the higher self, universal intelligence, the quantum field, parallel realities, and any other level at which the information could be stored. And I don't know for sure about all of the things and, parallel realities and all of this, but quantum physics is pretty sure on a lot of these. And so I include them all in my work, because why not? So, and very importantly, and this is a part that often gets missed with other modalities that I've studied, dealing with any internal resistance or resisting parts. Because here's the thing, while the conscious person, the client, may want the change, and they're like, yeah, no, I don't want this anxiety or these panic attacks anymore. Maybe there's some parts of them that kind of got stunted in growth and didn't grow up with the rest of them that are holding on to some of these issues, thinking that it's keeping them safe by being in a fear state. Oh, that's keeping me safe. And it's outdated programming. But if that part thinks it's doing something beneficial for the person, then they also won't shift. So if you don't address all of these different things, all of the levels, as well as the associations and the programming and the body and the genetics and epigenetics, and as well as any resisting parts, and then start the reprogramming with the new and better programming, then it's just not going to stick. And that's why people be like, oh, yeah, well, I've tried this before. I've already worked with the subconscious before. And I'm like, well, there's modalities and then there's modalities. That's why I use a combination, because coming back to I'm results focused. I'm always looking at whatever I can do that is making it consistently replicable. And so that thoroughness is why I get the replicable results that I get. Because if any of those levels are missed and any part of that old programming still exists, then it will persist. And the new programming cannot fully take hold on top of limiting programming. Because if the subconscious programming still exists, you'll continue to experience the same pattern of thoughts, feelings, behavior, and results. And that's true whether we're talking about confidence, money, relationships, stress, anxiety, self-worth, success, growth, or anything else. If the programming's still there, the pattern's still there. And over the years, what I found is that most people don't need more information. Most people don't need another book or a class or a strategy, not even more awareness if the awareness they already have isn't enough to create tangible change. We have to do something tangible with the awareness that we get in order to have it stick. Most people simply need the programming creating the issue upgraded. Because once the programming changes, everything else starts changing too. So if the programming is now updated and you're operating from belief in yourself and confidence in yourself, now your thoughts are going to represent that, your feelings, your actions, your reactions to people, the results. Everything tailors off of that, and that can all be upgraded. Well, before I go on, let's just see how this is hitting. Is it starting to make a little more sense, Jenny? Yeah? Anyone else? Are you on board with me here? You starting to see any correlations in your own life to how maybe you've struggled to make changes with certain things and you've done all the things, but you're still seeing the same patterns, whether it's emotional responses or results, actual results in business or anything like that? Do you see any of that showing up in your lives? Okay, awesome. So let's talk about Tony. Was anybody there at the happiness retreat in Mexico where Tony and I kind of, for more than an hour, just kind of went toe to toe? Was anybody there? John, you were there?
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. Okay. So if any of you want the record, I don't have the full recording, but I got about 30 minutes piece of it, and it's pretty powerful. Just send me like a WhatsApp message, and I'll be happy to send it to you because it was nothing short. So I'm just going to go over that. I just saw some people trying to join here. Okay. All right. So the Tony event, the happiness event, which for me, if I had paid everything for that first Platt year just for that event, it would have been worth it. I'll tell you that right now. It changed everything for me because I got the awareness and then I did something about it. So Tony and I went back and forth about growth and happiness, and I went back and forth with a lot of presenters for that retreat because I was really starting to have some new, awakenings and awarenesses. And at that point in my life, I was in a constant cycle of doing as much as possible to grow or achieve. And as a result, I was under a lot of constant stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. I personally grew up in a money scarcity situation. My dad left when I was young. I worked from the first grade all the way through. I watched my mom push herself to the absolute limits at all times, raising 2 kids, working 3 jobs, going to school full time, 1 degree after another, and living under a constant amount of heavy stress and overwhelm. Of course, that had an emotional toll, and for us as well. And of course, the health issues over time became worse and worse and worse from cancers to autoimmune diseases and so on. But that was the pattern I learned during my programming years. I learned how to get really good at doing a lot with a little. So I became really resourceful, which is cool. I learned how to always have enough to do what I wanted. I became incredibly resourceful, including traveling all over the world with next to nothing when I was younger. But I never really had more than enough. And I learned from my mom's example that I should always be doing as much as humanly possible at any point in time. So I graduated in 3 years with 2 degrees, and the pattern continued. Lots of stress, anxiety, overwhelm, pushing. And eventually that started translating into physical issues for myself as well. Headaches, migraines, daily acid reflux, severely painful spasms that caused me to pass out. And all of it felt normal because it was the programming I learned. A little side note to the medical issues, by the way, all of those things that I just mentioned, I address those with the subconscious since it is the ultimate biohack. And I was able to take myself off all daily medication by reprogramming the subconscious to normalize these things. No more daily 3 kinds of acid reflux medication a day, daily headaches medications, the spasms that cause me to pass out, all of it reprogrammed. Pretty darn cool. Because the mind does control the body. So now, the interesting thing is that this programming affected every area of my life. It affected my ability to be financially successful, my daily peace and happiness, my personal growth. And of course, personal growth is like #1 for me. But Tony on that day made me realize that pushing and striving for the growth only eliminated that magical zone of what's possible when we're in complete alignment with and on the same frequency of the level of success, happiness, and growth that we truly desire. I remember him saying, what if it were just easy to be Tina? What if the growth was natural and part of your nature and you didn't have to push for it? So it was most definitely guaranteeing my unhappiness, because and now, for me, growth is #1, right? If everything can always be improved upon and made better, including myself, there's always a next better level, right? Then what I realized in that moment on that day with Tony was that I was never truly satisfied with what was or what I achieved or who I was in any moment in time. I was not accepting and appreciating who I was in the process of growing. I thought, well, I've got self-love. I've done all that work. I've got unconditional self-love. But I'll tell you this, I don't think that you can have unconditional self-love if you don't have unconditional self-appreciation and acceptance in every single moment as well. And that realization was a shocker to me, and it changed everything. It was an absolute game changer, because as soon as my conscious awareness grabbed hold of that for the very first time, which of course, if we're not aware that there's an issue, then we don't know there's anything to be changed. So immediately after that event, I asked for a series of subconscious upgrade sessions designed specifically to not only get me in full alignment with my mission, purpose, and identity, but also, most importantly, to fully step into 100% unconditionally accepting and appreciating and loving myself in every single moment. Especially, and no matter how far short I fall from where I want to be or how bad I F it up, because I now know who my soul essence is, which is way more than deserving of self-forgiveness at all times. At all times. And everything else is just me doing my best under the current programming that I've got, which I'm always constantly upgrading. So I get to accept and appreciate myself in the midst of the growth. And that changed everything, because now I can instantly forgive myself for any mistakes, because without the mistakes, I wouldn't be growing, and step into full self-appreciation during even the most challenging times. And I can't even begin to tell you how much that shifted everything for me. Like I said, that awareness alone would have been worth every dollar that I spent for the entire year of that platinum year. Everything. Because it changed everything about the way that I live my life, how I feel about myself. And it's such a different place coming from ease. And because now I'm coming from a baseline that's one of peace and calm. That's the reality. No matter what happens in life, I can deal with it from that baseline more often than not. And every day, that's just becoming stronger and stronger as my default. It's becoming my new default. And since that time, when that event was in the fall of 2022 to now, it has sunk in so much more, because I've done so many different sessions on it. And now it is more my default than anything else. And joy, that's a word. I'll tell you what, I never used the word joy in my life before having those shifts, ever. Like, that wasn't a consistent part of my experience. But now it's a regular thing. I experience it all throughout every week. I never had those vocabulary, peace and joy and all of this as my regular part of being. But all of that was only possible because I wanted that to happen, and I did something about it at the subconscious level to integrate that into my everyday awareness. And I'll tell you, it's such a freeing experience. Because the reality is that what we have to deal with is sometimes out of our control. But the suffering we endure during it is more often than not a choice and not a necessity to deal with most challenges that come our way. So coming from a baseline of peace and calm to handle challenges not only feels so much better, but is a much more resourceful state to operate from, especially during challenging times. And believe it or not, it was only then when I started taking all of the finance and business classes with Tony as a platinum partner that I realized I had a lot of limiting beliefs about myself around money, success, and even growth, which as you're starting to catch the pattern, and I told you a little bit about my background, you can probably see where those limiting beliefs came from. Just using myself as an example. So for the first time ever, I started really looking at my beliefs, attitude, and even anxiety around money, success, and growth. And I realized I had a lot of limiting beliefs around wealth and success, and especially growth, including beliefs like, in order to make money, you have to work really, really hard. Or more than enough money isn't necessary because I've always had enough. Or to grow, you have to push really hard for the growth. That was a big one for me. But all of these were major ones for me, and there was a bunch more. And of course, those beliefs were only creating more of the same experience. Hence, I would always have enough money to do whatever I wanted, but never more than enough, right? So I know what it's like to push really hard and still feel like you're not making progress, or to constantly feel stressed and anxious and overwhelmed, and to wonder whether high levels of success are even possible. And to believe money only comes from struggle. I used to push myself using sheer willpower, believing that was the answer to everything. And after seeing all the other results I had already received from subconscious upgrading, I decided to finally address my money beliefs too. Because up until that time, I'd been in business at this, and I was, operating, and I still am ranked #1 in San Diego. I've got the #1 business. I haven't lived there since 2020, but I still have the #1 hypnotherapy business in San Diego. But I never went after the money stuff, not until all the Tony stuff, and it became very, very obvious to me. So I got subconscious upgrade sessions to reprogram my subconscious around money, wealth, success, and even the idea of needing money as a tool, as an essential tool to have impact. So I started to see money differently, not as something optional, but as a necessity. And especially a necessity if I wanted to, if I'm here to have the level of impact in the world that I'm here to have. And at the same time, I was also addressing the root causes of my stress, anxiety, overwhelm, and most importantly, my attitude toward growth. And I saw the differences immediately. I no longer got stressed and overwhelmed about money like I used to. I started approaching things from a much more balanced place. For the first time, trusting that I live in a state of abundance and that it's all working for me. And especially when it's hard to see that it is. Especially those times. And that's just a much calmer, in the flow way to be. It's a much more trusting way to be when you really apply that. But that trust wasn't natural, I'll tell you that. It was not natural for me just when things look difficult to trust that it's all still working out and that I live in abundance. No, that wasn't natural for me at all. I had to do multiple sessions to really lock in that trust that, yeah, the universe, it is all working for me, everything in my life. And all I have to do is get myself aligned and to keep taking that action. And that's what I call that I created a little success formula that, of course, was inspired by Tony. Consistent, persistent, massive action with a flexible approach is guaranteed success. So now, instead of like working harder and longer hours, I just consistently take persistent, massive action, and I change my approach as needed. And then it's all going to happen because I'm aligned for it. I've removed the programming standing in the way from the success. So instead of it's working smarter instead of working harder. And because I'd reprogrammed my subconscious so thoroughly, I was operating from a completely different frequency. And I am operating from a different frequency because I'm a different person. And if you bring in the quantum fields, what we change, and especially when we're working in these fields, it changes the past, which changes the now, and so on. But that's a whole other rabbit hole of a conversation. So The opportunities, though, that I started attracting became really aligned with the new programming and started showing up more easily and naturally just because I was taking consistent action. And those opportunities are attracted to me regardless, in a way, of all the hard work. You're putting yourself out there, but what's attracted to that is what you receive. We're only ever attracting what's at our current level of output. And that frequency, people talk about like high frequency and low frequency, whatever. Frequency is absolutely also dictated by our programming in the subconscious. You can't be on a high frequency and attracting high frequency things if your programming is super limited and low frequency. I'm believing I'm not good enough and I'm stupid and I'm just a failure and I can't be successful. That's for other people. And I have to work harder than I want to. If any of these things, you can't be on a high frequency with that. By changing that, though, then you are. And then what you're attracting is on that same level of frequency. And that impacts your relationships, your business opportunities, and so on. The people that start showing up in your life are completely different than they would have been before that. So, while I was reprogramming all of those levels of stress and anxiety and money programming, I continued taking all the growth in business and finance classes as a platinum partner. And because of those concrete shifts in my mindset, I was able to apply what I was learning much more effectively. And it finally stuck in both the conscious and the subconscious. And not only did that dramatically increase my peace and happiness and overall well being, it created the biggest increase in business success that I'd experienced in over 12 years. And I know a lot of you had that experience with working with Tony, but for me, it was a game changer. I mean, I increased rates by 350%, which up until that time, I'd only ever increased rates by 15%. I started targeting, the higher market so that I can have my mission of being able to offer other services, the services to the masses and not have to charge like that. But most importantly, of course, I started selling at the new rates immediately. Up until then, I was charging far less than the value, despite helping people create life-changing transformations. And of course, I started seeing similar shifts in my clients as well, though I'd always seen those shifts in my clients. That was always something that I was aware of. But once the programming changes, people just start showing up differently in every area of their life. All right, who's with me so far? All right, Jenny, it's making sense. Yeah? Awesome. Okay. Any questions so far? We're almost through the talk bit. No? Okay. So I'll just give you, I mean, there's a lot of examples. You saw some of them on the slide earlier. I mean, I've worked with NFL Hall of Famers and, multimillionaires and even some billionaires. And but here's one that maybe a lot of people can relate to. So I'll share this one. It's Sharon, who's shared some testimonials on my site, so I can share her. And so, Lynn, if you just want to share that slide for me. Sharon was one of my subscription clients for all the group reprograms plus a one-on-one client. And she owns several health clinics in Chicago. And when we started working together, she'd been frozen around hiring for almost 2 years because of subconscious programming around relationships and people always leaving. So she just couldn't hire any more people. She was really limiting what she was capable of doing in her clinics. And after working on that, so we did the Limitless Wealth Mindset Reprogram together, which was a group situation, but she immediately started hiring again. Brought on 2 new staff members, add additional people in the pipeline, and we also one-on-one worked on health and weight loss and lifestyle and wealth reprogramming in the group. Within a few months, she had lost 25 pounds due to the weight loss stuff that we did and completely changed her relationship with her health. And after going through the Limitless Wealth Mindset Reprogram, after 34 years in business, she had her highest earning month in her business. Her accountant even called her to celebrate. It was like a huge milestone, which turned into her highest earning quarter in 34 years of business, which was just stunning. Absolutely. It says highest quarter week. That's incorrect. Yeah, highest quarter week shouldn't be there, but you get the idea. So that was pretty cool. But perhaps the biggest shift wasn't the weight or the money. It was how she experienced life. She describes herself now, and if you want, TinaNomad.com, and Lynn, you can just share that in the chat. That's a whole bunch of testimonials, and you can hear people talk for themselves. It's just TinaNomad.com is just all testimonials. But she describes herself now as more present, more grateful, calmer, happier, and far less reactive to challenges. And that, for me, is one of the biggest measures of success. Not just what someone achieves externally, but how they experience themselves while they're achieving it. So I went through a whole lot right now. So I'd like to kind of open this up for a minute and ask you all, who here can relate to having an upbringing or early experiences that you now realize may still be creating limitations for you today? Or how's that showing up in your life right now, or your business, your relationships, confidence, opportunities? What do you think you're missing out on because of it? What would life be like if that pattern wasn't there anymore? So just think for a moment. Jenny?
Mm, My biggest question is if there's a block or something that is forgotten or something that was blocked. And then we have that restraint, but we're not quite sure how to unblock it. As I see it, this is something that you would help people reach deep in order to unchain it so then they're free from whatever's holding them back.
Yes. So basically, I consider my job to be like a computer upgrader or reprogrammer. So like I'm like a facilitator. I compare it to a computer. It's the best example I think we have. And so when somebody does a session with me, or even the recorded reprograms, you're in trance, your eyes are closed. So basically you're in a state of hypnosis. But like I said, I've studied clinical hypnotherapy and NLP and all of these things, but I would not be having the results if I were just doing the straight forms that I had studied with them. The reason this works is because I'm bringing in another level of thoroughness. So for example, in an example of a session, what I would be doing then is starting the session by asking some questions. And if this is a recorded version or a group one, you'd have the questionnaire to fill out ahead of time. Or I would ask you one-on-one, and I'd ask you and to elicit the limiting beliefs and the programming and associations and stories that you have around it and all of that. And then for the rest of the time, you lay back, your eyes are closed, and we go into it. And I start talking to your subconscious, and I also bring in the higher self for a good amount of the session and start talking to the subconscious. And first, like I said, we go after the associations. Associations are the feelings attached to things. So usually when, we talk about, so if somebody has a fear, it's pretty obvious, like on a scale of 1 to 10, where is that fear or phobia? If it's anxiety, where is that? What the negative emotions, how often are you experiencing them, and what are the scales, right? And so we go after neutralizing that first. And we do bring in all the levels, the quantum levels and parallel realities and past lives, future lives, the whole works. And we know that works because I test it about halfway through the session by asking them to think about the exact same things that they used to be fearful of or whatever. And then they think about it. Now, imagine yourself doing that right now. How do you feel now? And where we talked about it ahead of time, I asked a number and they'd be like, oh, it's a 12 out of 10. And now it's like, oh, nothing. It's just neutral. In the majority of every single client that I have, it's neutral between almost halfway through the session or before that. And so then after the associations are broken, then I direct the subconscious, and I've already accumulated a whole bunch of limiting beliefs from what the person said. And if it's in the recorded version, then I direct the subconscious to go after whatever they thought about or wrote about. And so because it has that capability, because it's there in your mind, seeing what you're doing. And so then I go after everything that the person said that was a limiting belief, and I pull those limiting beliefs out by like, for example, if I were going to take your issue for the day, what would I need to believe is true in order to have your issue? Or, what would I need to be worrying about or thinking about in order to have your issue? And so I'm pulling out tons of limiting beliefs. And so then I tell the subconscious to take all of those out and anything similar to them and anything that's holding the person identifying with those things as who they are, because that's important because then they identify with it. And we don't just pull out the beliefs from the subconscious. We pull it out from the conscious and the subconscious, the DNA, the RNA, the cellular memory, the nervous system, the neurological levels, the Akashic records, like all of it, and then some. And so then going after biological programming. And if necessary, we bring in the genetics from both parents and epigenetics as well, if necessary. And then we go after the parts. Like I talked about earlier, if there's any resisting parts the person may have internally, even if they're not aware of them, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But if we don't address that, if they've got some part of them that's holding on to this issue, like for example, I had a fireman once who was a leader of his group. And I do think it was all men, so I say men. And he had a fear of not being able to breathe in confined spaces. So, but in his mind, that fear was keeping him safe. So first off, I have to give some perspective shifting. So what fear does, as we all know, it drops the blood flow from your brain, pumps it out into your outer extremities so that you can run or fight, right? And so now you're not thinking very clearly. You don't have access to your full resources. So you're not actually handling the situation as safely as you can. And especially if it's a life or death situation, you do not want to be in a state of fear. You want to be in a state of calm focus where you can clearly access everything that you've ever learned in that moment. And this is why athletes, the same thing. You see these star athletes and you watch the Olympics. Most often, when you go to the Olympic, like I was just on call at the recent Olympics, right? And so, one thing that I saw, people aren't competing against capability. They're competing with who can access their capability when the pressure is highest. Not everybody can bring it under pressure, which is a real shame because people aren't actually competing with what they're able to do. And so this is what I do for pro athletes is I remove those associations because oftentimes when they get up into that high pressure moment, what's happening is all of their past failures are suddenly flashing before their eyes. And that's where they're at. Or their mind and so their subconscious is trying to keep them safe. And so they just completely lose it. So I'm coming back to your question. And so after that, so we deal with the resisting parts, and then we get rid of all that stuff. And then I do some check-ins. I ask the person, how do you feel about this? If they're not neutral, we bring them down to a neutral. Then I ask their subconscious and higher self, does the person still believe any of that old stuff? Does the person still believe that this identifies who they are? And it will answer for them. And if it does, then we do some further work. And only after we're clear on all those levels do I start the reprogramming process, which is now you want to believe some really good stuff. Now that we've removed it, you can't just leave it there. Now you've got to put in the new programming. Because if the old programming was I'm not good enough, well, now you got to get in the good enoughs. Now you've got to get in I'm fully capable, of success and I'm deserving of it or whatever it is. And we ask that awareness from internal as well. And so once that's done, then we do it incredibly thorough. Like I said, all the levels, bring in coping strategies. We bring in make it their new identity. We bring in the quantum realities, having them choose the reality, step into it, and then be their transformed self in every moment of every day after that as much as possible, acting as if. Does that kind of explain a little bit, Jenny? Yeah? Okay. Hal, good to see you.
Good to see you. How you doing?
Good, good.
Hey, I guess my question is, like I hear what you're saying, like, but why would we want to think about the past? Like why wouldn't we want to entangle to our future, to our future self, and why not walk forward into that instead of, like bringing up trauma? I've done a lot of, um, done a lot of AA work and a lot of ACA work in my past, and like just to bring up all that.
So,
The
so I
vibration.
get where you're going with that. So here, let me go ahead and answer you. So that's why I do what I do and not what I used to do. I used to be a counselor, and all I would hear were like shitty stories day in and day out, and it was so horrible, especially when it's not tied to positive change that I was seeing. So the difference with this work is we're not focused on the past. How what we're literally focused on. So usually somebody will come in and so let's say they've got anxiety or whatever it is. So we're not sitting there having them relive anything. This isn't anything to do with reliving it at all. So I ask them some questions. I find out what their belief system is that's creating the anxiety because you can't just imagine it away and be like, oh, I'm just a calm person. If everybody could just imagine it that way, then they would just be whatever they wanted to be with just imagining. But unfortunately, the programming is tied to our past. But that doesn't mean, so I'm in agreement with you. I don't think we have to sit there and feel shitty and relive it. I don't think it's necessary at all. So if I'm dealing with someone who's had repeated traumas, for example, and now they're in a constant state of PTSD and they're constantly being triggered, I'm not having them relive it. I may take a documentation of, okay, this happened, there was sexual molestation at this age, there was this, and then this happened. And so I've got the document, and now we go and clear it. So we
Right.
clear the associations that are tying them to the past, because the problem is that people are operating from the past and they don't want to be. They want to
Right.
be focused on the future. They want to be focused on where they want to go. So, but we have to clear the ties and break the ties from the past so that it's no longer relevant. That's why you hear people telling the stories over and over and over again, and they're so tied to it because it's so current. But we don't want that, like you said.
No, no, and what I just see is like, like I just did the 10-day with Dr. Joe in Cancun, and I'm just more, maybe I'm validating what you're saying, but like there's so many different people from Wayne Dyer to Tony Robbins to, I could name 1,000 people, like that has like change your story, change your life, or the way you look at change the way you look at things and the things that you look at change. I mean, there's so many people that are talking about this. It's just interesting because me and my wife, we when we were down there, we bumped into somebody and they're doing a lot of trauma work about their past, and they're tucking in their little like I did primal deconditioning
Yeah.
therapy in an ashram in India. Like literally we like beat the crap out. I killed
Yeah.
the existing little kid and walked into a new future and was birthed again. So my question is how do like I know so many people that want to stay in that. How does this happen that it allows them to erase, like I can sit for hours and meditate, like it took me years to be able to do that, but there like the people that are really suffering, like I want to be able to I just want to be able to lead them. I guess they can lead you, but I also want to make a difference in their life in that moment sometimes. Does that make sense?
So yeah, so I hear a couple of questions. One, which you can do for people in any moment, and this is what I do because I'm not going to sit there and drop and have a session with people in any given moment. The first step is awareness. But how this differs, yes, you are validating what I do. So thank you. I appreciate that. Because I do say this is a challenge. Find me anyone, even all of those big name people that you're listing, that has that high level success rate, that when they go and they learn these techniques, that they're all of a sudden, they're, fully transformed, but the issue's no longer existing, and they are stepping into that version of themselves that they wanted to be without having to relive it, without having to sit there and go through all the stuff. I don't think that it's necessary based on close to 9,000 sessions. I do not think it's necessary to sit there and relive the shit. I do
Okay.
not.
No,
And
no, no.
because
Thank you, because me and my wife walked away from these people, like, and they were like, "Oh, you've been really taking care of your little
no,
kid,
no,
your little child inside." I'm like,
it's not necessary. And I'll tell you, I can say that because I have enough evidence. And the reason I have evidence and I know my success rate is because I give people accelerators after each session, and I have them document their positive differences as before the session and after, and then and say it back to me in the follow-up sessions. So no, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's unnecessarily painful. I think, why would we have to do that when this is a computer? It's a database. It has every single thing that's ever happened, whether you recall it or not, it's all there. The conscious mind can't even access it. Even if I asked you to relive some of it, it would be totally altered by so many things and your perceptions, and it wouldn't even be accurate. So what we're doing is I'm talking to your database, not to you as the person reliving the experience. You're laying there relaxed and calm. You don't feel any emotion at all. I'm just telling your subconscious, okay, find the starting moment of this issue. Find the very first time that it started in their life, the beliefs that were created from it. Now I ask you to unravel all of that. And so they don't have to tap into it. They don't have to feel it. They don't have to be it at all, not to have the change. So in
"No,
answer to your question, it's not necessary.
no, no." And I think the only thing that's ever really helped, besides like entangling myself to my future self, has been some plant medicine. I think the plant medicine really deep,
Yeah.
it really defragged my mind.
It is. It's great, but
You,
you have to use the right intentions with it. And
right.
yes, with a lot
Yeah,
of people,
absolutely.
it can do if they're not in the right mindset. But yes, I'm a big advocate of that. But I will say again, find me anyone how I'd love to meet them because I don't currently know anyone that's getting these kind of results. I'm constantly looking because for me, I know a lot of people like to do what they love and like this technique resonates with me. For me, no, it's like if I can't help the atheist, the spiritual, the whatever, the entrepreneur, the stay-at-home mom, if I can't help and the student help them all equally have similar results like everyone, then why would I be doing it? And so, but that's me because I'm here for human potential. Like, and so that's my whole goal and thing in life. I'm an amplifier and actualizer of everyone, not just this group of people. And that's
No,
that's part of who I am. Yeah.
I appreciate you, Tina, and like the session that I had with you has made a difference, and I just wanted to
Obsession?
I want to acknowledge you for coming on here to talk about this stuff, and because it really is, this is what we need. We need more of this type of conversation instead of like a go, 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 go. Like, let's really connect. Let's manifest. Let's really pray. Let's do the things, within us, the power within us to pull it towards our heart so we
Yeah.
can create it in the spirit and soul. So
Well,
thank
I
you.
mean,
Tina,
you're so
Tina, we're
incredibly
at
aware. Thank
10:30
you, Hal.
here.
Yeah, you're so incredibly aware, and most of this you in here are in who watch this after are so incredibly aware. But it's time to do something with that awareness at the level that matters. And so, and that's what the real thing is. What are you going to do with that awareness? Are you just going to keep piling more awarenesses on top of it? But what about what's already there? It's like for me, I get an awareness and I immediately get a session. I get another awareness, and if it's not happening naturally, I get a session. I'm like, why struggle with things when I can just level up in a session more often than not for me? But yeah, Marja,
This is just more of the same.
Woo!
great to see
Hey
you. It's been a
everyone.
while.
It has. I actually, hi. First of all, hello, all my beautiful, lovely Platt family. So good to see all you. I hopped on here because I was uh, coming out of a meeting, working, and I was like, I'm isolated here right now. I need to tap into the love of my Platt family. And I jumped in and I was like, breath work. Okay, wonderful breathing, opening. And so thank you for being all of you. I just love being part of this family. My question is, as you have these sessions and you do the work and you have this awareness and you're applying the things, there's what Tony calls the gap, the turnaround time, and you're basically now cleaning up the past reality it doesn't just disappear once you have made that. So in that turnaround time, in that messiness, in that space, what do you recommend as in moving through that? Because sometimes it feels like it can take forever because now there's even a bigger disconnect because you've moved beyond it, but yet you're still needing to be in it in order to complete it, to clean it.
So the disconnect is already addressed in the session. And so first off, it's very heavily addressed because once you put in the new programming after you've removed all the old programming from the subconscious and all the levels that I just talked about, then we start to do future pacing and in seeing yourself and feeling yourself as this transformed version of yourself. And then you pace it out even years from now, having lived that way for a while. And then you have that person, me in the future, that's experiencing that reality as a result of the work I'm doing right now, send gratitude back to you, and you're sending gratitude to it. So you're connecting to that future. And then like I said, I give accelerators after the fact. And so some of the accelerators are like documenting the evidence, because when people see evidence, then it sinks in and it becomes who they are faster. So the people that do this and that don't, I see a distinct difference in how fast they actualize the change. The people that are documenting, oh yeah, I used to respond this way in that situation, but now it was different. And I used to do this and feel this, or believe this, but it was different. And they have this list of evidence and evidence and evidence, and they're stepping into it because that evidence is like solid and also tells the subconscious what you like, so you'll start attracting more. Also, one of the instructions for I have anchors, and so that's an instant state change. So So what happens in the sessions if we reprogram everything, but the neurological habit pathways are still there. The difference is that it's not attached to anything anymore. So on the other end, it used to be attached to all this baggage, which is why you couldn't just want it to be different, and it was. But now it's no longer attached to anything, but that, let's just say, the groove is still deep and it's there, right? So the mind's trying to go down that pathway. So I give it, anchors. I also give some short little 20-minute recordings to do this. So anytime they're instructed, anytime they feel those old habit, those negative things that you used to feel, they're to use the anchor immediately. I am good enough. I am worthy, whatever the anchor was. Okay. And they breathe and feel it 3 times, and they go on. If they do that every single time, as well as this is coupled with the instruction to that, now that they have that real firm idea of that transformed self, what they're like, how they feel, what they're doing, they're instructed to imagine as if they're that version of themselves in every single moment, especially the challenging ones. What's my transformed self, and how's she handling this right now? How's she dealing with this situation right now? What is she saying right now? Imagining as if you already are. It is like way on top of fake it till you make it, because we've already done the programming to put you there. And the more that you stand on top of that and act as if you already are, the faster it comes into your reality. So there's a number of tools I give on the back end, but the start of that starts in the session at the quantum level, connecting to that future transformed self and doing a lot of work that we do, and then giving them instructions after. And that really depends on the person, if they're going to follow the accelerators or not. The ones that do, they step into it. So by the time you look 3 months from now, you're like, holy shit, I'm way different than I was before. 6 months from now, oh my God, I'm 180 degrees from where I started. Like that's not even part of who I am anymore. And so as time goes on, you notice you immediately feel the differences. Most every single client that I ever have after the first session, they feel the difference and they notice the difference, and it shows up tangibly in their life and their actions and thoughts and feelings. That said, it just gets stronger as time moves on, which is the really cool
All
thing.
right. Right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Because I'm clear about feeling the difference. It's just about when the physical reality of that past you're still cleaning up that
Well,
and
but
moving
with
through
this work,
that.
you're not still
Yeah.
cleaning it up. It's already cleaned up. This is so
Mhm.
thorough. I mean, these sessions, usually I'm booking 2 hours for these one-on-one
So
sessions.
so
It is so
for
thorough.
example, let's say for example, in the past you, because of past programming, whatever that you were dealing with, you have created financial lack, mess, debt, whatever. And so now you're clear of that and you're feeling different, operating differently. Yet from the past, that past shadow, there still needs to be debt paid,
Right.
stuff like, and so that's what
So,
I'm
so,
talking
so the
about.
answer to that is how you're handling it and how you're feeling while
Hmm.
handling it are different. So instead
Hmm.
of living in fear and
Hmm.
anxiety about the situation, you realize, as long as I keep taking consistent, persistent, massive action with a flexible approach, it's
Hmm.
all resolving. I mean,
Right.
living in fear or anxiety, it's not going to change the situation any better. It's not going to
Right.
help it resolve
Hmm.
itself. Me taking action continuously, me worrying about it's not going to help anything. Me taking action is going to help something. And so the
Hmm.
difference is that you're able to handle those things without the negative emotions attached to them, and
Right.
instead actually coming from a place of peace and calm and trust that it is all working out. And that's
Yeah.
effing game changer. I will tell
It
you
is.
what. I
It
will tell
is.
you
Yeah.
what. So that's the difference. So thanks
Yeah.
for bringing that up, Marja. And it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thanks, honey.
John, good to see you.
Great to see you. And Tina, I just want to say thank you so much. And people don't know, I'm going through life mastery next week, and everybody's seeing everybody's doing their cleanse, and I did an emotional cleanse, and I did subconscious healing with Tina. And I can say right now, I have never felt lighter in my soul than I ever have in my life. And one thing I want to ask you is associations or feelings. And I've been, writing down my feelings and writing it down every day. And this
The
is making
positive differences. Yeah. Yeah.
positive differences. And really looking at seeing is what you're doing is feeling it. So not only am I writing it down, I'm feeling it in the moment. And one thing I've been able to experience is some of those feelings are the same feelings like when I used to get like really mad. When I'm really happy, now I'm writing it down. Those are the same feelings and sensations. That's what I want to ask you. So I'm feeling some sensations at different times. And then I'm looking at where I wasn't super happy. I'm like, wait, that's the same feeling when I'm in this state. And that's what I was kind of looking at, associating those feelings and what I'm doing with those feelings. And now being able to recognize those feelings more and more, to be able to actually for that next level. Your transformational self. I was in a room this morning with Dimple, and everybody in the room just saw how I've been completely just be. I just want to say, how, Al? Yeah, I was just saying, if you haven't talked with Tina, which you have, like,
Well, yeah, John. I mean, that you're such a. I mean, he's done one-on-ones with me, plus some the Limitless Wealth Group reprogram, and but the first one when we did that first one-on-one, and after we finished, and he was just like. He's like, when I do, I think he said, when I do these other modalities, I feel like there's a light off, weight off my shoulders. But he said, how did you say this? He's like, when I did this.
weight came off my soul. It was this way.
Yeah.
It's
And
I've never
yeah.
I write down every day, and like this morning, and I've been writing in my other journals for Team Tony. I'm like, I just feel lighter
Yes. That's
everywhere.
the biggest thing people say, by the way.
I feel lighter everywhere in
Yeah.
such a profound way, and being able to truly just feel myself. And that's one thing I just want to thank you, Tina. And it was a major breakthrough for me, and I'm seeing that now. Now the universe, God's giving me everything I truly need, which is just me accepting of a belief of there was no belief. It was just me thinking, right? So it's
Yep.
interesting on being free from some old disbeliefs. And for me, it was a
Yep.
lot of traumas.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of
And now
traumas
I'm
that regardless, like Hal said, you're not wanting to live there,
yeah,
but the subconscious has tied you there because it thinks it's trying to keep you safe. So it's tying you to those same things. And so, which was really cool to hear John say that it was like a weight off his soul, because my new focus and what I really feel that I'm here to do is to help connect people with their soul essence, who they are as a soul, beyond that bundle of programming that most people think is their identity in the I am. We are a soul having a human experience. And while I did not say that to John, and I don't say it to most of my clients if I don't know where they're at, spiritually, to hear that coming out of his mouth afterwards, after I have just now, and I just started to create my first retreat, so called the Remembering, and in these power spots in the world. My first one's in October, if anyone's interested, but it's in the hundreds of standing stones, bringing in all these major people. But it's all about remembering who we are beyond this human form. Most people have that bundle of programming, 0 to 11 in trauma, and whatever that is, and they think that's who they are. They think this identity, this personality is all that they are. And it's so limiting. It's so limiting. When you change that, as I've been able to start to do, having now worked with this, we talked about this in my group today, how different it was. I went after this a year and a half ago, and I talked to my mentor, and I was like, what if we use this work that we're doing, but instead of like anxiety is the issue or whatever the issue is, how about we treat the disconnect from our soul as the issue and remove whatever's standing in the way from aligning with that? What if we do that? He's like, you're talking about waking people up. I was like, well, it's actually time for that. And it's obviously not for everyone. I mean, if you're going to come here to me with a phobia of flying, we're not going to work on that. But I was the guinea pig for this, and I was like, let's do it. I believe that this is possible. And I combine that with a number of things, but I will tell you the identity shift is massive. It just feels so different because now I feel like, because I'm a nomad. I've lived in 10 countries. I've lived, 11 states. I've been to 65 plus. And that idea of adventuring and exploring new cultures and things, that's what I feel about life now. And I feel like, yeah, I'm this soul experiencing this, like, wow, this crazy new culture and this crazy new whatever. And it feels exciting and it feels adventurous. And if I don't like the little side game I got myself involved in, well, change the game, and it's just, yeah, it's really cool. But thank you, John, for sharing. I really appreciate that and being here. And I'm so proud of you for tapping into the power of who you are so quickly and effectively. That's just a testament to your desire, because that's the one thing I can't bring to the table. And that's the desire. The subconscious is a superpower. It's a supercomputer more powerful than any of these AIs out there. You'd have no idea. It can do everything we're talking about. And I'm pretty good at working with it. But
you're
the
excellent.
thing that I can't bring to the table is the desire. That has to come from the person. If they don't really want it, it's not going to shift. If they do want it, then for most people it shifts. Anyone else have any questions before we get into introductory to introduce you to this intelligence I've been talking about this whole time? No? Okay. All right. So we'll just get right into it. I wanted to keep this about 90 minutes, so we're almost there. So before we dive into the experience that I'm offering today, some of you may still be wondering, will this work for me? And I completely understand that. And what I've learned from working with thousands of people, including pro athletes, entrepreneurs, executives, high achievers, multimillionaires, and even billionaires, is that when people identify and upgrade the subconscious programming at all the levels we talked about that are creating the issue thoroughly enough, things shift remarkably quickly. And it's not that you're becoming someone different, like John just talked about. It's that you're becoming more of who you are underneath all that limiting programming, which is not you, it's just programming. So what we're doing is we're moving the stuff that's not you so that you can sink into who you really are and be aligned with who you really are, your core, your soul, all of it. Because no matter how much awareness you have, if the programming remains the same, the results tend to remain the same too. And that's exactly why we're going to do what we're about to do. Introduce you, maybe for the first time for some of you, to the most powerful part of who you are, your subconscious intelligence, and begin creating a relationship with the part of you responsible for approximately 95% of your thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and results. And for many people, this is one of the most impactful experiences of their life because you get to actually meet and interact with the part of you that's directing everything. So before we begin, I just want to mention one thing. If at any point during today's workshop, you recognize an issue, limitation, pattern, or challenge that you'd like help clearing, Lynn, if you just drop a link in the chat for a complimentary subconscious audit, it's just simply a conversation. And we'll look at what's going on, identify what may be creating it, and determine what would perhaps be the best path for you forward. It's simply an opportunity for us to connect and see whether I can help. So if that interests you, just grab a time on my calendar while it's available, and she's posting the link in the chat. So today we're working with the subconscious. So how many of you understand the importance of imagination in the subconscious? I mean, we literally just talked about it a moment ago. So like I talk about this as a computer, right? And so my computer right now is a keyboard. That's how I can make it do stuff for me, right? But obviously we don't have a keyboard for this computer in our heads. So, but as we talked about a little bit earlier, imagination is the programming language of the subconscious. It's the keyboard to your computer, so to speak. It doesn't discern fact from fantasy. What you imagine, it can make real. It doesn't matter how fantastical the imagination. It knows. I mean, like if any of you watched my like intro video, I talk about one of my clients who got hit by a car crossing the street, and he had all these pins and like screws in his leg all the way down, and he'd been a client from before, so he called me up for the trauma and also for accelerated healing. And so then after we did all the work in the subconscious, then he imagined whatever he wanted to imagine about the healing. He imagined little dwarves or gnomes or something in there, like repairing the damage. And like constantly, I said, okay. I was like, whenever you get a chance, if you wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom all throughout the day, just imagine them repairing the damage. And so then he calls me up one day. He's like, the craziest thing happened. He's like, the other night I got up to go to the bathroom and I told the little dwarves to get back to work and to make sure they were working. And he said, they threw up their hands and they're like, we're done. We could use some magic, but we're done. He's like, that was an unexpected response. I never had that response before. And he said he had an imaging test scheduled with the doctor 2 days later to go and check the progress of the healing. They went in and they couldn't find any evidence of the fractures at all. They were just blown away with how fast that it healed. And that was just so that my point in telling that story is that the imagination, the mind does know what to do with that imagination because it's the one creating it. So in this exercise, go with it is my point. We're going to set up a place in your mind where you'll be able to access everything all in one place, your beliefs, your memories, your experiences, programming, everything. Kind of like your subconscious library, though it may not look anything like a library. And so then you're going to meet your subconscious intelligence in a tangible way. And like I said, for many people, this is one of the most powerful things they'll ever do. And after that, we're going to start removing some of the limiting programming that you may have around stress and anxiety. This isn't going to be a full session, as fully engaged as all those levels I told you about leading up to this. But we are like doing this session alone. Like I've had people who haven't been able to get on a plane in years, be on a plane 2 days after the session. So this is not some lighter version. This is actually the first session that I would do with any paying client is this. And I just wanted to gift it to you all as part of this group today. So I want to assure you a couple of things. You're not going to be in a fragile state. There's no mind control here. Can't make people do or say things they don't want to. You're just going to be comfortable, relaxed, and aware, which is perfect. I do a little bit of a relaxing induction, so do your best to not fall asleep because there is some imagination involved in setting this stuff up. So if you can be aware, and then that's going to be better for this. You can always go back and listen to it later if you didn't. So yeah. When we start engaging with the subconscious, the easiest way to tell the difference between conscious responses and subconscious responses is this. If a question is asked to your subconscious, for example, go with the first thing that pops into your mind and trust the answer. The first image, the first word, the first phrase, whatever it is, just trust it, especially if you don't agree with it. Okay? And, don't stop and try and figure out what the right answer should be. Now, that was me. I was the worst example of a client ever when I started this work. I would use my conscious mind for everything. Oh, he wants us to go back and have a memory. What I should choose the perfect memory. Or, what do I think the answer for this should be? Well, that's using the little 5% of your mind that's not in charge of anything. And so anything that has to do with the programming. So just literally go with it and go with whatever pops up. The more you do that, the easier it gets. This is the first time. It gets easier every time after this. So if you're trying to figure out what the right answer should be, that's your conscious mind stepping in. Okay? Trust those first impressions. So, like I said, yes, this is a gift to my platinum family. This is a first session that I would offer to anyone. Tangible introduction, the most powerful part of who you are. And we'll deal with the anxiety, overwhelm, and introducing you to subconscious intelligence. So I want to encourage you to fully experience this. So turn off any distractions. Let people know not to interrupt you. It's not very long. We'll probably be done in 20 minutes. Give yourself permission to be fully present. And this is a real experience. Like I said, this is what I offer all first-time clients. It's much shorter than the 90-minute sessions that come after this. 2 hours with the interview, but this is with the first session I would do anyways, because it lays the groundwork for everything else that we do. So, because once you have all of that set up and you know how to interact with the subconscious, then we can just start instructing it to do tons of stuff. So before we start, does anyone need a bathroom break, or are we good to keep going? You're good? All right, cool.
Thank you so much. I do got to jump out. Love you guys. Thank you.
Love you. You can do this on the replay.
Awesome.
Bye, Marja.
Thanks.
So good to see
Bye.
you. Okay. So, yeah, if you need a headset, put it on, just get comfortable. If you want to lay down, even lay down on your floor, instead of having to sit up and hold your head straight, you can do that. And yeah, just let me know. Just take a moment to do that. Lynn, if you haven't done this, you're also welcome to participate in this. Take a little break, relax, close your eyes, and take advantage of this opportunity. Awesome. Everybody situated? It looks like it. Okay, perfect. So just take in a nice, long, deep breath in through your mouth and hold it for a moment. And on the exhale, let go of any surface tension as your eyes are closed down. Now just imagine yourself floating along in the river of life. And this river is imbued with positive energy. And you're totally supported by that energy just flowing underneath and all around you now. You're just flowing along with the current, which is taking you deeper. Easily and naturally, you're being carried along by the river of life to a destination that takes you deeper within, where you get to enjoy the experience of peace and calm now. And a very interesting thing happens as you float along. Any distracting thoughts you may have just flow right out of your mind, right into the water, and they're carried away by the water. Any thoughts at all just fly right out of your mind and into the water where they're carried away so that you can just let go and be peaceful and calm now. And any tensions that you may have anywhere in your mind or body, they just flow right out of you too, right into that water, and they're carried away by the very same current that supports and sustains you. Those tensions or concerns are carried away by the power of the water and by the energy in the water as you just float along happily and peacefully now. And you may start to think of numbers now, starting with the number 10. You may even see the number 10 on a sign on the bank of the river as you float by. And as you float past it, that number's behind you. And so you go deeper. And then you see the number 9 on a sign on the riverbank and you float past it. And you go even deeper than before. And you actually double your mental and physical relaxation with every number that you pass by for now. Every number you pass by and sound that you hear just takes you deeper within. And that's a nice feeling. And the more numbers you let go of for now, the more relaxed you become and the less you care about numbers. Till they're all just gone for now. And you don't even have to let them all go one by one. That just happens automatically as you let go of the first few numbers, letting them go and going deeper with each one. Till you're deep in trance now. And you really are deeper than you think. Maybe deeper than you've been before, and that's just fine. Because it's wonderful to be this deep in trance. Knowing that you can always go deeper if you want to. And you can certainly come all the way back when you're done and you're ready. But for now, you just relax all the way into this peaceful state now. Now, your subconscious mind records everything you experience, including how you feel inside of everything you experience. And then it organizes the records of those events according to categories like when things happened, how important an event was, what kinds of emotions you felt during an event, and how strong they were, and so on. The average person experiences roughly 400,000 conscious moments a year. So if you multiply that by the number of years that you've been alive, well, let's just say that's a lot of moments you've already experienced. So now imagine all of those moments as snapshots, or little short videos, or movies, or even written out as pages organized into books, where all the events are related to each other in some way. Now imagine how big of a library it would take to hold and organize all of that. How many shelves of books or reels of film, or both, would it take to document all the moments of your life? Now that library would have to include all the funny moments and the scary ones, the happy as well as the disappointing ones, and the ones where you felt angry or sad or frustrated or bored, as well as all the moments that you're daydreaming, and ones where you felt excited or hopeful, and all the times you felt loved or loving, and all the other feelings too. Then there's all the memories of when you did things and learned things, and all the things that mean something to you or about you for whatever reasons they do. Even the events of things that you experienced before you had words to speak or really understand what was going on. Those events are all in your library too, including all the months that you spent in the womb building your body cell by cell. It's all there in the Library Museum of the Subconscious. And there's a whole section that's just dedicated to all the things that you believe. It contains what you believe about life and yourself and everything else you believe about everything else. And many of those beliefs are just old and out of date, just like things in a museum, which is why I call that section the Museum of Old Beliefs. And some of the beliefs that are there aren't even really yours. They were just handed down to you through your family, or through old books or TV, or by people who were authority figures in your life when you were growing up. So now that you're starting to understand how much is there, imagine how big this place must be. And just imagine the intelligence that it must take to record everything and keep all the memories and beliefs organized and sorted properly so that you know what you believe and remember all the things you've learned to do so well. It's an amazing intelligence that does all of that. So we're going to go to your library. And to do that, we're going to go deeper in the mind, maybe down some steps or stairs or another unique way you have to get to your library. And at the bottom will be the door to your library. So now you're going to have to take yourself there because the way to get there is unique for each person. So just take a moment to go down to your library. And so that you're standing in front of the door to your library, just take a moment to do that now. And one thing for you to remember about that door is that it will only open for you. So go ahead, open the door to your library, step inside, and just take a bit of time to look around and explore the space. People are often really surprised by how big it is. This is your library. Take some time to notice whatever you notice. Now, it might be a lot like a large library with lots of bookcases and shelves and so many books. Or it might be more like a museum with display cases and objects from your life. Or it could be a combination of both of those things. Or it could be something very, very different than either of those things and look nothing like a library or museum at all. There's really no right or wrong. Every library is different for each person, so just notice what yours is like today. Now, everything you've ever experienced and everything that you've learned and all that you know and understand and believe, it's all here in your library of the subconscious. So just take a moment there to really remember this is all with your imagination, which is part of your subconscious. So if it doesn't fill in automatically, feel free to use the imagination. Just take a moment and notice what your library looks like, how things are organized in your library. Is there an organizational system? Or maybe you're not aware of one. It doesn't really matter. All you're doing is noticing right now. How does it feel to you there? Does it look cluttered? Is it all straightened up? Is it organized? Is it disorganized? Does it feel nice in there? Does it feel overwhelming? Just notice. All we're doing is noticing. Because this is the type of stuff that gets changed in the work. So we're not worrying about anything. Notice what really stands out to you. And what seems most interesting or important to you about how your library looks or feels. And if there's anything else important to notice about your library right now, just take a moment to do that. Okay. All right, so there's one more thing we need to add to your library, and it may seem a bit strange because we don't know yet what we're doing here. What we need to add is a giant garbage bin on wheels, and it's wider than a person from side to side and front to back. The top is about the height of your solar plexus, and it's wide open. So just find or create that somewhere nearby. So now it's time to meet this amazing intelligence I've been telling you about. The intelligence that runs all the systems of your body and who records who records all of your experiences and organizes your memories and beliefs so that you have access to all of those things. And you should also know that your subconscious curator has many possible ways that it may appear to you. It could show up as an older, wiser version of yourself, or more like a wise woman or man, or like a famous person like Albert Einstein or Nikolai Tesla to represent intelligence, or Carl Jung who understood the unconscious mind so well. It could even show up as an angel or guide, or be more fanciful like a wizard, magician, fantastical creature, animal, or something else entirely. Really, your subconscious curator can show up to you as anything that you might relate to, and it may be different each time you work with it, or different depending on what you're working on, or what kind of assistance that you're asking for that day. So when you're ready, go ahead and ask your subconscious curator to meet you there in the library now. So just take a moment to do that now. Just invite your subconscious curator to meet you there in the library. And then just notice that whatever shows up. Trust that it will come when you ask it, and it does. So just take a moment and notice what your curator looks like today. Maybe notice if there's anything important to notice about your curator. And then welcome your subconscious curator and thank it for being there. And when you remember how much that your curator does for you every day, you might even just want to thank it for doing all of that for you. So just take a moment to do that now. So now your subconscious curator is going to share some important insights or wisdom with you about any issues that you might have with stress and anxiety and overwhelm. It could be something you need to realize or understand. Maybe something you can start doing on your own to make things better, or something else that your curator wants you to realize about how that shows up in your life or why. So just let your curator communicate with you in whatever way that it does, or whatever way feels best, whether that's through words, feelings, or images, or however that comes or happens. Just trust whatever you hear, see, or feel, and let yourself receive it with an open mind and heart now. So, subconscious curators of everyone that's listening to this, I ask you to share something important for them to realize or understand that you'd like them to be aware of about the issue of stress, anxiety, and overwhelm showing up in their life. Thank you. Just go with the first thing that pops up. And when you become aware of something, just take a moment and think about what does that mean to you? What's important about receiving that awareness or information right now? Thank you, curator, for that awareness or understanding. What else does your curator want you to be aware of about stress and anxiety or emotional overwhelm in your life? What's important about that? What does it mean to you to receive that awareness right now? Thank your curator for that awareness. Now, if there's anything else that your curator wants you to realize or be aware of, whether it's about that issue or anything else in general, just allow that to be communicated to you in whatever way that it does now. What's important about that awareness? What does it mean to you to receive that right now? Thank your curator for that understanding or awareness. I'm going to ask your subconscious curator if it's okay for it to remove some of the things that are causing or reinforcing stress and anxiety and overwhelm in your life. Then we'll be having it remove some of those things today. So, subconscious curator of your person, I ask you to remove whatever beliefs that would be most useful for them to become free of today that are causing them unnecessary stress and anxiety and overwhelm in their life, including any ideas or beliefs that say something like, I'm not safe, something bad's going to happen, I'm not in control, I can't handle this or things. Everything is too much. I have to be prepared for the worst. I have to stay on guard. I have to carry everything myself. I can't or don't trust myself. I won't be okay. I'm just an anxious person or overwhelmed person. Subconscious curator of your person, if they have any of those beliefs or anything similar to them, I ask you to take them and everything that reinforces them, take all of those things, including all of the negative emotions, associations, and triggers connected to them, take all of those things out of their Akashic record and DNA and RNA and cellular memories, out of the very moment where those things began, and all the other moments that they ever got reinforced. Take those things out of their conscious and subconscious mind and brain and relevant brain maps and neural networks and nervous system. Take them out of all relevant memories and experiences from anywhere in time. And take out all of the negative expectations, reactions, responses, behaviors, and coping mechanisms that are based on those things, and put all of that into the garbage bin now. Thank you. So all of you, just let your curator do its perfect work while I'm quiet. There's nothing you need to do. You can observe if you want, or just lay back and relax. All you're doing is allowing your curator to do everything that we just asked it to do. And it's only negative stuff. Excellent. Subconscious curator, if we still need to remove anything else from your person's mind or body or any parts of their personality, it would be most useful for them to be free of today in order to eliminate the cause and all the triggers for everything we're transforming today, including anything that would try to justify any reasons for those things to still exist or to ever be recreated. Then I ask you to remove all of those things from wherever they're located anywhere in their mind or body or energy field. Take all of those things out of them as fully and completely as everything else you've removed, and put all of that into the garbage bin now. Thank you. So once again, just allow your curator to do its perfect work while I'm quiet. Okay, now look at everything that your curator put into that garbage bin. And you're all on mute, so you can go ahead and do this, and I want you to repeat after me as you look at everything in the garbage bin. This is where all that stuff belongs. In the garbage. The only power those things ever had was the power they used to get from me. Now I reclaim and use that power to get rid of that stuff once and for all. And I create the life I choose to live now. Okay, so here's how we're going to do that. That garbage bin is on wheels, sitting on a track that leads back to a big furnace that has a door with a window so you can see what's burning inside. So in a moment, you're going to give that garbage bin a big shove. You're going to send it to the furnace and watch it all burn in a brilliant violet flame. So if you are ready to be done with all of that negativity in that garbage bin, then go ahead. Again, this is only negativity. It does not affect memories, but it affects how you feel about them. So go ahead and send the garbage bin to the furnace. When it gets there, it goes in automatically, and you watch it all burn in that brilliant violet flame. And as everything burns, all of those negative thoughts and beliefs and energy and expectations are completely transformed and released by that flame. So all of those influences are completely gone from you. So just allow that to happen now. Now imagine stepping into a sort of shower, except this one uses light and positive energy instead of water to completely dissolve any residue of all the things that your curator removed from you or the library. So just step inside that beam of light energy now, and it's shining down on you and inside you and all through your mind and body and library, totally dissolving any residue that may have been left inside. So just allow that to happen now. Now another beam of light energy switches on and bathes you in frequencies of pure love and healing all through your mind and body. And you can feel that love and healing working in every atom and cell of you, just filling up all the spaces inside where those old feelings and ideas were before this session. Now those things are being replaced by these wonderful frequencies of love and healing everywhere in your mind and body. So just allow that to happen now. Now I want you to imagine yourself in the near future, experiencing for yourself what it's like to be free of that old issue. You may even feel like a new person or a new version of yourself, and that's fine because in a way you already are becoming a new, more positive version of yourself than you were before today. And that's what you came for, to start to change things for the better, and you've done that. So take a little time to imagine what that's like to live your life with more happiness and joy, peace and calm as your baseline, and just feeling better and better every day now. Really take some time to enjoy this. Make it as big and bright and as close and colorful as you like. Make it rich and vivid. Really feel it for yourself as if it's already happening right now. And what's that like? Now take that even further into the future, years from now. Notice what it's like to have been living with a baseline of peace and calm and experiencing regular joy and happiness, living in a state of abundance for years now. Imagine what that's like. And as you're seeing that version of you out there that's already been transformed, I want you to take a moment and allow that transformed self that you're witnessing to send you some appreciation and gratitude for starting this work that allows that version of you to even exist. And you sending gratitude back and connecting to that future. Just take a moment to do that now. Now, if you were able to see a more positive version of yourself in future than the one that was there before, then that shows that there's already been a shift made at the subconscious level to even be able to experience that in your imagination. So I want you to thank your subconscious curator for helping you take that step in the right direction today. And you can tell your curator you'll be coming back to improve your life in all kinds of ways. So just take a moment to do that now. Now, that new future, if it was a good one, imagining that future as you're falling asleep or before you even open your eyes in the morning really reinforces that version of you. And also, all throughout the day, imagining as if you are this transformed self every moment that you get. How is my transformed self handling this? What are they thinking and feeling? What are they doing right now? And imagining as if you already are that version of you. Excellent. So before we end this session, I want you to ask inside, do all parts of me agree with what we've done today? Just notice the first answer you get when you ask that. If it was an immediate yes, that's great. If you got some resistance or a no, then subconscious curator, for anyone that has any resistance for your person, I ask you to grow that part up from wherever they're at, putting it into a bubble of safety and peace and love and acceptance. And while that part or any other parts of them are in those feelings, I ask you to grow those parts of them all the way up through their life, from all the different places and ages and moments where they are, all the way up to their current age today. And as you're doing that, I ask you to give them the current awareness that what we're doing today is only beneficial for your person. Please take the time you need to do that now. Thank you. Excellent. So I'm going to count from 1 up to 5 and bring you all the way back to your full conscious awareness so you can enjoy the full benefit of everything that you did today. And you'll remember whatever's important for you to remember about the session, especially having met your curator and everything important that your curator did for you or shared with you. All right, here we go. 1, slowly, easily, and gently, you're coming up now. Coming up to number 2, feeling so much lighter now because of everything you let go of today. You're free of those things now and from now on. Coming up to 3, now you're more present in your body, more centered and calm. Coming up to 4, more aware and alert, and getting ready to come up and all the way out of trance on the next number. Number 5, eyes open. Taking a deep breath, stretch and smile. Welcome back. So just take a moment and move. Make sure we didn't leave anybody in that trance state. And if you want to turn your cameras back on, you may. We're going to just end up just a few more minutes, but love to give you a moment to come back to it and kind of share. Maybe if anybody would like to share what your library was like, or how did it feel interacting with your subconscious? Or even if anyone felt like they were almost falling asleep or that their conscious mind tried to get involved. But if anybody would like to do it, have a moment to share, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I I think I've done this work before, and like you said, try not to fall asleep. But I think I fell asleep, and I usually don't fall asleep at like 10 a.m. in the morning, and I was gone somehow. I came back sometimes, so I really don't have a lot of recollection
That's
of
okay.
what happened.
So in most of the sessions, so like when I would do, when we do the really long ones, like this is the groundwork, because once we have this, then we can do all the other sessions. And so in those sessions, I'm pretty much just talking to the subconscious and higher self most of the time. And the person's job, the only thing they're doing is telling me when it's done what I'm doing. So it's a lot of done, done. And so they're not really much aware at all of what happens. It's all with the subconscious. In this one, it's beneficial to stay aware because you are designing things and being aware of the library and actually visualizing and imagining or feeling the subconscious curator. So you're welcome to do it. And if you're a person that falls deep quickly, which, there are a lot of people who do, that was a lengthier induction than I usually do at the beginning of a normal session. I would not have done that much relaxation. I just did it for you all today. But you can always nix that starting point where we did the river relaxation and just start right in, and you'll be able to create your library and meet your curator that way easier. But the work that we did, removing some of the stuff, that would have been done regardless, as long as you were giving permission. So it wouldn't have mattered. You don't need to be aware. Most people that I do sessions with don't remember the majority of the session. I personally don't remember most of my sessions. I go pretty deep. So yeah. So that's okay. But you're welcome to redo it and create it, because it is good to have that as a baseline, because that's what I do in every session. We bring you back to that, whatever the library is, even if it doesn't look like a library, and your subconscious curator and so on. So having that baseline. So
Okay, I think.
you're welcome. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Well, it's always awesome. Thank you again, Tina. Right.
You're
So,
welcome, John.
and just to that next level of getting rid of another, let's just say, younger self that was holding some limiting beliefs about other people's emotions
Well, there you
that had
go.
nothing to do with me.
There you go.
Because at the end it said no. I'm like, what's this no coming from? Like, I just did this. I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, well, that was really interesting to actually find that and be able to really, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's a really cool awareness to have. And like awareness is the first thing that comes in spades with this work, by the way. And so yeah, and having that awareness, and we don't get rid of younger versions of us, but we often do grow them up and integrate them so that they're not like stuck there in the past in that young, limited way of seeing life. So we certainly don't get rid of anything though. And I see Sienna says it was a somatic experience for me. Yeah, and again, this is kind of the baseline one, which is setting everything up because once we do this, then we hit the ground running in the following sessions. Like I said, I booked 2 hours for those. And then I just start talking to the subconscious and telling it all the things, the associations and the programming and everything to do. So this is just like a small portion of what that would be. But without this, it's kind of hard to do the other ones. I think this is makes a lot more sense to do this because it gives you a real tangible way, and you can also start to actually communicate with your subconscious intelligence. Did anybody find that they were able to communicate with their subconscious intelligence at all and get any awarenesses from their subconscious? Hal, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I mean, it just told me I have no stress, which I don't. Life is good. We're so blessed. We're
Oh,
just
I
so
love
blessed.
it. I
Yeah.
love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I tried to pick something that would be most applicable for most high achievers, but there's some people that it's just not. But see, but you got that communication. You got that communication immediately. And how did that feel to get that communication?
Yeah, it's a gift. I mean, it's a gift. I mean, it's a gift from God. Like to feel that within your body and to know that in your soul and your spirit. Like I'm just. It's a reassurance. Like instead of trying to make something wrong, right? Like just to. I mean, I love what you said. Just go with what first comes to your mind.
Yeah,
And then like yeah, life is such a blessing. And
excellent.
I feel I am blessed and love the life I'm living and
Beautiful.
I mean love this in this moment with you. Thank you.
Yes, well, reassurance is an important thing. Often we're hearing things from the subconscious like, yeah, I kind of knew that, but I wasn't paying attention to it. Or, yeah, it's really good to get that reassurance from that part of me that's really kind of running my life. So cool. Anybody else have any cool awarenesses that came up at all? I know it's the first time, so it's always the hardest for everyone. It gets easier if you redo it. So I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know we've gone just about to 90 minutes here. So just to wrap it up, I just want to thank all of you for showing up and fully participating today. I know some of you had experiences that maybe you've never had before. Some of you were like Jessica said, that reconnecting with something you've already met. That's cool too. And maybe some of you connect with your subconscious in a way you never have. Maybe some of you became aware of patterns today that you didn't even realize were there. And for others, this may simply be the beginning of a much deeper journey. But regardless of what your experience was today, I hope you can see one thing. The subconscious is not theoretical. It is influencing your life every single day, whether you're aware of it or not. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from today, it's that you're not stuck because you're broken. You're not stuck because you're lazy or incapable. Most often, you're simply operating from programming that can and should be upgraded. And that's exciting because if programming created the problem, reprogramming can change the pattern. So if today's training, workshop, or however it is resonated with you and you'd like help identifying what subconscious programming may be creating the challenges you're experiencing, then I'd love to speak with you. And there's a link in the chat. Lynn's going to drop it again, and there's a QR code right there on the screen. So, go ahead and scan that. Just book a time. It's free. It's complimentary. And during the call, we'd look at what you're struggling with, what you want instead, what may be creating the issue, and what I believe would be the most effective path forward based on experience. And whether we work together or not, it's simply an opportunity to gain clarity, if nothing else. So before we wrap it up, I'd love to hear if anyone else wants to share biggest takeaway from today or most impactful awareness or experience with the subconscious, anything like that. If you feel like sharing. Nope. Okay. All right. I'm trying to get off my full screen here. All right. Anybody get any new awarenesses? Bye, John. Thank you. All right. Well, and for anybody who's watching after this, I would just hit me up anytime if you have anything that you'd like to bring up. Thank you so much for your time, all. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for letting me share this time with you.
Thank you, Tina, for doing this. Thank you so much.
You
Sending
are-
much love.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jessica. That means a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you.